All right, Choice Residential. Today we are talking about the non-exclusive buyer agency agreement. This is Form 203, and specifically this is the January 2025 revision. So make sure on the bottom right that you're always working with the most recent revision. In this case, this is the January 2025 revision. Just a couple of changes here to the non-exclusive form. Just like with the exclusive buyer agency agreement, this has been whittled down to 3 pages, so it's a much shorter version than we had previously. And a lot of it is the same, but a couple differences I want to point out here. So just like in the exclusive agreement, you're providing the services provided are the type of properties and the locations that you'll be working with this buyer. If you have a relocating buyer who maybe is considering Charlotte and the Triangle, well, if you don't service Charlotte, make sure you're putting in here that you're representing them in the Triangle market. You are expected to be competent in any market that you are helping a client. So just because someone you know is buying or selling a property somewhere and asks you to help them, if you're not capable of helping them with expertise in that market, then you need to refer that out to make sure you're only working in areas and property types that you feel competent in. Buyer disclosures, this is the same as what we'll see in the buyer agency, exclusive buyer agency agreement. Term of the agreement is the same. One thing you'll notice that's different from the exclusive buyer agency agreement is that there's no option here for a non-refundable deposit, or a retainer fee, I should say. So that's unique to the exclusive buyer agency agreement. Just be aware of that. Otherwise, this section is the same. And I will highlight the fact that it's a specific amount if you're using this third checkbox here. Do not enter a range. Do not enter anything that is open-ended. No words like up to or between. Don't put something like whatever the seller pays. None of that stuff is acceptable. You need to have a specific amount, the same way that you would with a seller on a listing agreement. You are letting them know exactly what the compensation is that your firm expects to receive for this transaction. One change here that we've seen to Form 203 is that now there is an option on whether the buyer is going to be responsible for paying your fees set forth in this agreement. On the previous version of the non-exclusive form, it was predetermined that a buyer was not responsible for paying firm's fee. There now is an option here. So you could check that the buyer is responsible for paying the fee or that they are not. Again, in a non-exclusive agreement, the buyer could be working with multiple agents. But if they choose to write an offer and move forward with you, this is going to identify whether or not they're responsible for the fee that you've set forth here. You are permitted here to seek that fee up to the amount you put here from the seller or listing firm. But this is going to determine what you select here determines if the other side, the seller, is not willing to pay the fee, is your buyer going to be responsible or not? And then the rest of it is going to be mostly the same as what we'll see within an exclusive buyer agency agreement in terms of the rest of this language with dual agency, the entire agreement, some of the legal paragraphs that follow. So these are all similar to the exclusive buyer agency agreement. So main thing you want to know that's different here is just this option on whether the buyer is responsible or not. And of course, noting that with non-exclusive, the buyer has the right to work with other agents as well. If you have questions about this, definitely reach out. We want to make sure you know how to utilize this. If you're not really familiar with this form, that's okay. Most agents aren't using this on a regular basis, but there just are some situations with clients who maybe you just met or they want to work with you, but they're uncomfortable being responsible for the fee, not knowing if the property they ultimately want to make an offer on is going to be offering compensation or not. So you may decide that you want to enter into an agreement where you guys want to work together. But you just want to protect the buyer, or the buyer wants to be protected a little bit. This could be a good agreement to help you keep that relationship moving forward with everybody's best intentions in mind. So if you haven't used this before, no worries, but there are some situations where it could make sense and help you move forward with a client where you might otherwise have an obstacle that you can't get over. So again, if you have questions about it, please reach out to us. We want to make sure you're filling this out correctly if you're using it and understand if it's the right form for you in a given situation. So always reach out with questions. Thanks.